Alright, now I want to take a look at selecting specific elements on the page and things that we can do to allow that to happen. So here we have this inline style that we had set for this font size, and we only want that font size for this one paragraph. But instead of having this style in here, we can take this out, save our index.html, and if I come over here and I just select the P tag and I put that font size in here, what we're going to run into is now everything that's inside of that P tag in any P tag on the entire page is getting that same style. Since that's not what we want, we need to take a look at doing some things to add to our selectors within the HTML. And there's a couple of things that we can do here. Because this is the only one that I want to make this change to, I'm going to use the ID equals property or attribute, and I'm going to give this paragraph an ID, my paragraph. And when you're using IDs, you need to make sure that you only have one of any given ID on a page. Every ID should be unique. So in this HTML document, you should only have one element that has the ID my paragraph. So here I'm going to save this, and then in my styles.css, I can select the element that has a specific ID by using the hashtag and then whatever that ID is. So coming back over here, I named it my paragraph with a capital P. So my paragraph. And what this is going to do, it's going to select whatever element has the ID of my paragraph. So remember that the hashtag here is selecting the element that has this specific ID. So now when I save this and I refresh my page, I can see only that paragraph now has that styling to it. Another way that we can select our elements is using a class name. And I can use the same class name multiple times on different elements. So here in this paragraph, I'm going to give this a class equals I'm going to name it class equals pink, or name the class pink, so that I can use this same class maybe on this ordered list down here. So class equals pink, and then I'm going to save this file. Now I have a class named pink. So to select a specific class, you need to use the dot or period and then the class name. So dot pink, and then inside of my styles, maybe I want to make the background color of those elements pink. So when I save this and I refresh my page here, I can see that the two elements that I gave that class to now have a pink background. And that's because we can style things in that way so that we can give certain classes and create this style sheet that we could have set up, and we know every time that we give an element a certain class or an ID that it's going to take on the styles for that ID or that class, whatever it is we might have set up there. You can also, like we looked at here with the body, we can select elements just using their tag name. And we saw that when we did the P. Another way to select these is here I have paragraph tag with the class pink, and I have an ordered list with the class pink. So I can say if something has the class pink, I want the background color to be pink. Now if I have something that is in an ordered list with the class pink, now I can go in and I can say, well, the ordered list that has the class pink, so OL and then this class selector, so OL.pink, and then tell it I want to style ordered lists that have the class pink, but I don't want to mess with any of the other elements that have that class. So here I'm going to set this background color to FF00FF, and we'll look at this hexadecimal value thing in another video. But now that I save this and I refresh my page, I can see this ordered list has a different pink background because of the way I selected this. And you need to remember there are certain rules for that precedence, like we had talked about. Here, if you're putting things or styles in line, like we had the style for the font size here, then that's going to take precedence over a lot of your other styles. But just in your style sheet itself, as long as your selectors are all different, then it's just going to select those, and if you write another one that contradicts, then it's going to overwrite that based on reading this from top to bottom. So here I have .pink, and then if I have another .pink style, so here I'm styling the pink class, and here I'm also styling just the pink class. So now if I save this, this is going to take that second pink class, because it says, okay, you told me this, but then now you're telling me this, so I'm going to go with the last thing that you told me. Another thing to remember is here I have this my paragraph. I have this pink class, and so I have an ID, I have this class. I'm going to also give this the class equals pink. So I'm going to save that, and then we know we can select this element a number of different ways. We can style the P tag, we can style this class, and we can style this ID. So I'm going to take a look at some of that precedence. So we have this class pink styled, we have my paragraph styled. I'm going to go ahead and give this a different background color. So background color, colon, I'll just make it red. Alright, so now an element with the ID of my paragraph has a background color of red. An element with the class of pink has this other background. I'm going to go and change this back to the OL, because we have this class pink with the background color of pink. And then for all of my paragraphs, I'm going to give them a background color of green. So now looking at this, because we know we have this paragraph right here, so I don't want to make that green. We'll make it yellow. We'll give it a background color of yellow so it shows up against this green background. But now I have this paragraph with the ID of my paragraph. We can see that here. It has the class pink and it's a paragraph tag. And I'm saying if it has the ID my paragraph, make the background color red. If it has a class pink, make the background color pink. If it's a paragraph tag, give it a yellow background color. So one of these has to be the one that gets used. And the way that should work is if there's an ID or an element selected by this ID, that should take precedence over a class or an element name. If you have a class styled, then that should take precedence over an element name, but not the ID. So when we save this, what we should see when I refresh the page is the background color of this paragraph turning to red. So let's refresh this page, and we see that happening. So the background color of this is red because we styled the background color of the element with that ID. So now if I take this out, I comment it out here, refresh my page, now we can see we have this pink because both of these have that pink class, and we didn't get yellow because the class, even though it comes before this style in the CSS, it takes precedence over this other one. So now when I take this out or comment this out and I refresh this, now those paragraphs go ahead and get that yellow background. And again, if I put this background color red for my paragraph in here and save this, this first paragraph is going to turn red. But the second paragraph, because right now I'm not styling the background color for the class pink, is keeping that yellow background. So that's just a little bit about some of that precedence. And as long as you're keeping everything in your external style sheet here, then you shouldn't have a whole lot of problem with things styling and overwriting each other. And in the next video, we're going to take a little bit closer look at the structure of your CSS and writing things in this language and getting a better idea of what exactly is going on in here after we talked about the selectors. So we'll talk a little bit more about the structure of that CSS.